Hi everyone, I'm Caleb Walters and I am a communications instructor at the University of West Alabama. Today I'm going to be presenting you my project that I've called Turning the Page, and it's a case study of web accessibility for illiterate audiences in West Alabama. Specifically, this is a case study of the Literacy Council of West Alabama. But the information presented here I think translates well to higher education as well, and we'll talk about some of those implications toward the end. Some of the problems that we found with just illiteracy in our area is that 1 in 4 Alabama residents is functionally illiterate, right? That number is higher than what we see around the country. Around the country, the U.S. average is 1 in 7, but that's still a very high number of people who cannot read or write at a level deemed appropriate for the society in which they live. Generally, there are organizations that exist to help these individuals increase their literacy rates, but again, a lot of times they're not able to do their best at UX or UI or even promoting themselves to get people to look at their website. And a lot of times they're not necessarily reaching those stakeholders as well as they can. And again, if website information isn't accessible to those individuals, what's the point? So some research questions that we presented in this research are, what role can visual communication play in increasing literacy and even literacy advocacy? We'll talk a lot about visual communication and semiotics. In the next research question. Semiotics is essentially the study of signs and symbols and the meaning behind those signs and symbols, the ascribed meaning with those within a culture. When we think illiteracy, they can understand signs and symbols and images in a way that written copy is not comprehended. So visuals can play an important role here. And then we're going to talk about design thinking, which is essentially just you're presented with a problem and you develop creative solutions to that problem. Again, research areas, we're focusing on literacy in America. We're focusing on semiotics and visual communication. Again, just sort of that study of signs and symbols. Nonprofit marketing and promotion. This is not a unique issue to the Literacy Council of West Alabama. Other literacy organizations are probably facing some of these same issues. And also design thinking. So if we go up to our research methods, I did two sort of research methods involving LCWA's website. The first was just a content inventory, basically looking at what they have, how it works, what it looks like. And they need improvement in a lot of areas on their website. From both aesthetic and functional aspects, we said they have outdated typography and imagery. If we're focusing on visual communication and imagery, that imagery needs to accurately and presently represent literacy and tutoring and advocacy services. There's an inconsistent use of style, meaning that you could jump from one page to another and it would look like a completely different site. And very text-heavy content was found throughout the website. And again, if we're focusing on increasing literacy rates and getting people in our door to use our resources, that text-heavy content isn't necessarily going to cut it. And then the second research method we used was just a simple heuristic evaluation. This is Nielsen's general principles of interaction design, how people are interacting with your site. Does it work the way it's supposed to? There are 10 principles in a standard heuristic evaluation. LiteracyWA.org, which is the Literacy Council's website, failed in 8 of those categories. And again, these all relate to user experience, the sort of standard user experience, not let alone the user experience of someone who cannot read or write at a high level. I use these failures as a way to sort of guide those solutions and hopefully address those adequately. And you can see here, this is just a screenshot of the Literacy Council's former site. This site, coincidentally, actually is no longer live, is no longer active. I searched for it as of a few minutes ago before recording this presentation, and I'm getting an error message. Moving into our solutions, one of the biggest things to note between the solution site and the previous site is just the minimalism, the simplicity of it. I think a simplified interface could solve a lot of issues with what we found on LCWA's current site. This is the new website, actually. It's just built on Weebly. It's a prototype right now, but you're welcome to look at that. So we simplified the interface. This is not rocket science with this. You guys all understand what we mean by that. Reducing the number of pages and potential pitfalls in the site enhances the overall experience of people using the site. Focusing on the illiterate audience, one thing that we included in this research was the use of icons and those semiotic markers. Again, semiotics is just the study of signs and symbols. And icons are in themselves symbols of something. So on each page we use visual communication elements to indicate particular content area, such as icons and images. We use these icons here. You can see the book. We've got sort of a collaboration icon here, a giving and donation icon, and also the tutoring icon. at the top of each page to kind of indicate what was going on that page and what content was going to be present on that page. Additionally, we included audio and speech icons on the site as well. So these are sort of universal icons that are used to indicate that you can click on it and it will give you a sort of spoken word version of the copy, or if in the case of the icon, that there's an audio cue that you can indicate there that you can use to complete a form or to complete any other tasks that would require writing. I think there are some really interesting correlations here with higher education. I'll just go through really quick. We don't always know the background of our students. We don't always know where they come from. We don't always know their educational background. Especially in underprivileged areas and impoverished areas, you'll find that students are typically sort of pushed through the system in a way that lets them through high school and even into college with a reading level that may not be up to par with their peers. And especially with our sort of international students, students who maybe English is not their first language, these icons and these sort of verbal options, these non-written options are very helpful to help them understand. Multimedia is kind of the mediator between those who can read and those who can't read. And I think that's something that we found with this research as well, is that integrating multimedia, integrating visual elements can be really beneficial on any website, but particularly those for literacy-based organizations and even higher education organizations.